The staffing crisis and its effects on the Children's Disability Network teams were discussed during the meeting, with families impacted by the staffing crisis having their say. Josephine Corkery, a member of the Special Needs Parent Network in Donegal, attended the meeting this morning. She says the discussions focused on what will help families now.
So we spoke about maybe using some of the budget that's currently underutilised to provide families with that route. We spoke about redeployment into the CDNT areas. We spoke about urgent support being needed for schools. And we spoke about the equipment needs. So children out there are waiting for equipment and need clarity around how they can access that equipment whenever their therapist isn't in place. We spoke about that as well. There was a good bit of discussion about the staffing crisis, but to be honest with you, ourselves and the Special Needs Parents Network tried to redirect the conversation towards what will help families now.
The HSA will today launch an inspection campaign targeting renewable energy installations, including wind farms, solar farms and anaerobic digestion facilities. As the Climate Action Plan target of up to 80% renewable electricity by 2030 is being delivered on, there will be continued growth in the industry across the country in coming years. This was the first campaign of its kind to be carried out by the authority due to a rapid growth in the renewable energy industry. Now for your weather update. Dry this evening with a mix of cloud and spells of sunshine and a light to moderate east to southeast wind. Cold and dry tonight with patches of frost possible. Lowest temperatures of 0 to 4 degrees and light to moderate easterly breezes. It will become wet and breezy through the day tomorrow with outbreaks of rain in the south extending to all areas. Highs of 9 to 11 degrees with moderate to fresh and gusty east to southeast winds. That's all for today. Your next local bulletin will be tomorrow morning. In the meantime, there will be national and international updates on our website at highlandradio.com. For myself and the Highland Radio News team, good evening.
The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Hello Joe, can you hear me?
Welcome one and all to the DL Debate. Thanks so much for tuning in now, live on Highland Radio or back via the podcast. This is a special county final preview this week. We are live here in Highland Motors at the mountaintop, Letterkenny, in their beautiful showroom where Lawrence has been looking after us. Thank you very much, Lawrence. Highland Motors, of course, sponsors of Sport on Highland. Joe Dex is here producing the show as ever, and if he's missed any headphones or leads or anything, he can run across the street. We're not too far in terms of an OB. Well, what a great show we have in store for you this evening, folks. Before we get to the preview, I have to say a massive congratulations to Downlands and the Rasa lifting intermediate and junior championships at the weekend. We commiserate with Malin and Maville, who put in a huge effort, coming up just short in the final. Later on in the show, myself, Brendan Kilcoyne and Gary McDaid will discuss the finals in depth. But here we are for the preview, lads, the big county final. I'm going to be joined by Naomh Conaill, Chairman, Peter McGinley, and of course club stalwart John Gildea from the Blue and White. And on the Gaoth side, we have Chairman Donal Rua Gallagher. He's made the trip along with former championship winner and a guy who's a wee bit shy. We might have to turn his mic up, Joe, he's a bit shy. Stephen Cassidy is along with us. As I say, they're going to make up. Stephen and John's going to make the first panel, then we're going to hear from the two chairmen, and then Brendan Kilcoyne and Gary McDaid will join us. But first up, John Gildea and Stephen Cassidy, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks, Brendan.
John, at the start of the season, I'd been more surprised if you weren't sitting in this seat looking at me, because it's Naomh Conaill. Stephen, it's been a couple of years since you've been in it now. At the start of the season, were you expecting to be in this final?
No, I don't think so, Brendan. I'd be surprised. There's a good few of our lads that have went travelling, and we've got one or two of them back since we've made the final, but I think it's a big surprise. Nice to find yourself in the final, no matter what way you come through it. Nobody gives a chance. I've been here in this top four for the past maybe 4 or 5 years now, and Gaoth were always in it, but this year, all of a sudden, I think Irua were number 4. We were knocked out of it, so I think it's a bit of a surprise, so nice to be there, all the same.
Yeah, and John, huge history, of course, between yourselves and Gaoth, you know, going back to 17, 18, Gaoth going all the way to be Ulster champions, and then the following season, that epic trilogy, You know, and we thought at that stage this was going to be every season. Now, yous are still thereabouts as Casses for different reasons between, you know, it looked like a conveyor belt of talent of Gaoth didn't all completely maybe materialise the way the rest of us were thinking they would. Plus, as Cass was saying, so much immigration in that, but certainly McNeilish and Francie Freeland have pulled together a brilliant season and are back now and deserve to be in the final.
Yeah, no, absolutely. They've done exceptionally well. They've beat a fancy McCool side, and they've really come into the final under the radar, which is a perfect place to be. Like, ultimately, all the talk this week is going to be about Naomh Conaill and 7 finals. And, you know, the one thing I would say is nobody in Naomh Conaill is going to take anything for granted. Like, we've been in finals before and favourites.
You've been in a few, all right.
And been favourites and lost. And traditionally speaking, favourites going into Donegal finals isn't a good place to be. And Gaoth will be very, very happy coming in under the radar. They've built a new team. There's some new lads in there that they're not household names yet. But I remember harking back to, 2005, and when we won our first championship, people knew one or two of us because we played with the county, but there was a whole squad of players that nobody had an idea who they were. And since then, those men have gone on, and the Anthony Thompsons, Leo McClunes, etc. Those guys have all Ireland medals. They have multiple Ulster medals. So you never know what's waiting in the grass, and you never know who's ready to replace you at the top of the pile. And we're at the top of the pile because we won the championship last year. But, that Gaoth team has shown a lot of life and a lot of bite and a lot of legs that has really supplemented the older lads and have carried, like McNeilish and Eamon and Neil, etc. So they'll be a tough nut to crack. And I suppose maybe because we haven't had that history with them in the last couple of years after the trilogy, they're going to come and bring things that maybe St Eunan's haven't done, because there's very tight rivalry between St Eunan's and Gaoth, whereas Gaoth can come and throw the dice. And as we've seen in the last couple of games, like, they're scoring goals for funds. That's what they're building around. So it makes for a very interesting contrast in styles. Yeah,
and indeed, John, you were in Paris at the weekend. You talk about the weight of expectation. The Irish team coming up short. I got a sense of feeling in that game that the All Blacks played at something almost like a Naomh Conaill, very solid at the back, rebuffed attack after attack, but when they broke up the pitch, the gaps were there. Did you get that bit of a sense from that display? There was something similar in that?
There is, yeah, and expectation and the weight of expectation plays differently on players. And when you can come into a final like Gaoth with no expectation and no weight of expectation on you, it gives you a huge advantage, because what's the worst thing can happen? You can lose a final that you were never expected to win to a certain extent. So, a very, very, very dangerous animal with some top class players, and that can't be written off. And I think people are making a very, very big mistake to even look at this and go, okay, well, it's Naomh Conaill to lose, because we're only 2 years away from when Naomh Conaill were the best team in the county ever. It was only a matter of showing up against St Eunan's and beating them in the final in 2021, and we all know how that ended. So
wise words there from John White. You're smiling there, Cass. John mentions their goals. Very strange season when you look at it from Gaoth's perspective, because we weren't sure what they were building. You had the two, particularly the two Dunloe games, really tough, tight games. Dunloe in many ways playing a bit of a Naomh Conaill system. They came down, was 9 points the first day, 10 the second, won it by a point. And then we had this absolute goal fest since 8 goals in the next 2 games. Has that preparation, would you have been better having the 2 Dunloe games, the more recent 2 games? Because it could be hard enough getting a decent shot for a point against Naomh Conaill, never mind goals.
Yeah, Brendan, I think you're right there. I think a lot of people say we've not been tested yet. Gaoth have not been tested yet. The 2 Dunloe games, they're a bit of a test. John will tell you, anytime you play your neighbours, championship football, that's a battle. No matter who you're playing, it's a real battle. Dunloe coming up, winning the intermediate last year, good young team, they're building. I would probably have rathered, from a Gaoth point of view, having a really tough semi-final rather than kind of easing right in. Not that we eased. I think Ardra had us for 3-4 without reply. At the weekend there, it was probably the Oisín Gallen kind of show. We had to stop Oisín. He still scored 10, but I just feel that that's the second time I've seen McCool's, and they're a young team. I know they're building. They're probably very young. One of the youngest, I'd say, that were in the semi-finals, or in the quarter-finals, out of all the teams that were in it. I just believe that you need a wee bit of tough battles going at those games. Not that the Eunan's game was tough. I just think Glenty's ground it out. never looked in trouble, always was in control. Brendan, it's funny, I think John is at 4. He's a 1 out of 7 finals.
Yeah, that's right.
And actually 8 finals out of 9, if you count it. And I'd say those 4, you're probably underdogs. I don't think it'll suit Glendee's been favourites. I think it'll suit Gaoth better.
Yeah, indeed. You concur. That seems to be a thing, though, John. You talk about systems now. I actually have to do a wee article for the programme on the day, and I was thinking about all the GA statements, the things we throw about, and one of them is it's on the day, and you still hear people say that, but surely now on the day is kind of gone. But you have that wee nagging thing about the favouritism, which Naomh Conaill don't like, but really it's down to the system. It's routine. It's play the same way. Everybody buys into it, and you'll get the rewards. And by and large, Naomh Conaill have got the reward for that.
Yeah, but in one-off games, anything can happen. You know, it's county finals are not won on the bookies, and they're not won on the newspapers or in shows like this, great and all as it might be. You know,
it is great though, yes.
But it's like if you look back down through the ages, like and Gary will talk later on. If you look at that final that Kilcar played Glenswally in, I can't remember the exact year, and in everybody's mind it was a matter of, you know, it was the end of that great Glenswally team, and Neil was starting to slow down. Michael, you know. And what happened was Kilcar showed up on the day to win a final, and the game just didn't go for them. The weather conditions played into it. Michael kicked a goal and a couple of points. Before you know it, it's gone. So I think a lot of the helter-skelter that would have been maybe 20 years ago when nobody had any idea who was going to win a final is gone, because I think teams are more structured, they're more professional, they're more disciplined. They take the emotion out of the game to a certain extent, and then it's about just doing what you're supposed to do. And I think Naomh Conaill are very, very good at that. Like they've an incredible bunch of players and quality footballers that all have bought into a system that Martin has adopted within the club, and they have a track record of success. It makes them very difficult to beat, but as we've seen 2 years ago, it doesn't make it impossible. So you just always have to tread carefully. This is an up-and-coming Gaoth side with a sprinkling of very seasoned, experienced, couple of all-stars, you know, not to be taken lightly. And on any given day, as we all know, you know, a couple of balls into the edge of the square, slippy goal, a man sent off for a high tackle. There's a million things that can happen in sport, and you have to just roll with the punches and try to get out the far side. And ultimately, it won't matter to Gaoth if they won by a point or 10 points, and vice versa. Same from a Naomh Conaill perspective. It's about winning the game, whatever way you can. Yeah,
and Stephen, this year you're a man for a goal in the final yourself. I don't want to go on to those.
That wasn't a good day for you, Davy.
I'm not. I'm just praising him. We'll leave it there, right? But is the feeling, Stephen, after all them goals that you've got? I just got the feeling against McCool's, and you mentioned about the test of it, because there seemed to be a wee bit of experience in the Gaoth side on how to keep the ball and how to work the game. McCool's were a bit young, but in any given game, there's going to be a bit of to and fro. Was it important, guys, that you seen that element of it? Because there's one thing you're going to have to do against Naomh Conaill is be very assured on the ball and keep the ball. And you mentioned that wonder goal that you scored in that final, Cass. If you're looking at it for Gaoth, they're going to have to get a goal against Naomh Conaill and probably keep a clean sheet to somehow, you know, tip the balance, because Naomh Conaill are going into this as huge favourites.
Naomh Conaill don't lose many goals though, Brendan. They've that kind of defensive structure that they will not lose the goal. John, you know, it's a big score. Gaoth can get them. I think a big factor is Cian Mulligan not being there. I think Cian is always a goal threat, and I think he's a big factor in this. Probably going back to the trilogy, we're weaker, John. I know you're saying about a lot of new lads coming in. It's great. Let's see how they do in a county final. Some can maybe freeze. Some might go in with no fear. You're talking about Oran McFadden Ferry not there. Eamon Collum was a good sharpshooter back in those games when we won it in 18. And during the trilogy, the 3 games, Cian's a big loss. There is a few, like young Nisha, remember Nisha? We flyer could break the lines. So, Brendan, hey, listen, on any given day, a final's a final. Like in the 2 we played against you, Brendan, we were underdogs. And it took 2 goals probably to shake you a bit, one in each game. And it rattled you. We weren't even in that county final. And it just rattled you. And you stopped playing, and you were in total control. I'd never seen it before. Whether we can do that to these guys, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
Different machine.
Cass, that boat of mine still sitting down Bombay. Do you want to head off and try and get Keane? Where is he anyway?
I think he's in Tokyo or Japan or somewhere.
It's a bit of a trip, but you know, if you took a bit of extra fuel, go after him. Michael Carroll, what's the update?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't think he's been training at full tilt. He got a bad injury around about 6 weeks ago, but he could feature.
Yeah.
Good man to have. Good man to bring in.
Listen, I was so impressed with him. You know, funny from a neutral's perspective, every time I watch certain players like him, I always think Donegal then in the background. I'm watching him carrying the ball in games, particularly in that Dunlow match. There's nobody else on the pitch could carry like him. And when you think of Naomh Conaill, you're going to have somebody with a bit of power that'll break the game lines, and that's going to be a key factor. And we'll talk about this more just after this break.
We're all going on holiday!
How would you like to go on the holiday of a lifetime? Then why not join us for the Highland Radio Hoolie in sunny Salou? Spend 7 nights in the sun with some of Ireland's top entertainers, including Robert Mazzell, Jim Devine, Margot, Claudia Buckley, and many more, with live music all day, every day. Staying in the beautiful 4-star Sol Costa Jurata Hotel, this is a trip not to be missed. Book now by calling Country Music Tours on 074 9119 955 or email info@countrymusictours.ie. We'll see you in sunny Salou.
It pays to plant trees. Planting on your farmland as part of the new forestry programme could deliver real financial benefits for you today and in the years to come. You'll get guaranteed financial support, earn ongoing premium payments, and take comfort in knowing there's a secure income stream. Ireland needs to increase forestry to combat climate change, increase biodiversity, and improve our rivers. So for you, for all of us, it pays to plant trees. Explore your options at gov.ie/forestry. An initiative of the Government of Ireland.
Restex Beds and Furniture special offer for this month only. They're giving a free pack of hotel-grade pillows for every customer when you buy a bed or mattress. T's and C's supply wine stocks last. Call into their showroom at Restex Beds, Mountain Top, Letterkenny.
At Shannon Airport, we know what makes a dream holiday. It's not just a huge choice of destinations like Lanzarote, Malaga, Edinburgh, Paris and Boston. It's the hassle-free experience that makes getting through our airport a dream. So whatever dream holiday you're packing for, head for shannonairport.ie. Shannon Airport, making it easy.
Highland Radio time checks with Expressway. Travel Route 32 from Letterkenny to Dublin when you book online and travel for less. Expressway, bringing you the time at...
The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's Kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Welcome back, folks, to the DL Debate, the special championship preview here in Highland Motors, Letterkenny at 7:20 on this glorious Monday evening. Lads, we were chatting ball. Just off mic there, or off air there, John, I just mentioned about, we were talking about players coming back. You know, likes of Ethan Harkin, a brilliant semi-final for Gaoth. You look at your ability to take players out on top of everything else, particularly like Zoltan Doherty, Mark and Niall O'Donnell in the semi-final. If there's any, dangers in that Gaoth setup or players that need to be marked out, you have the players to do that. And then in that structure, the team builds from that and goes forward. In the game, we have to mention 11 shots, 10 points. I mean, it was an absolute ruthless semi-final, which is the reason why everyone's looking to Naomh Conaill to win this match.
Yeah, no, listen, we're blessed with quality defenders, there's no doubt about that. If it's Ulton had an exceptional game against Niall O'Donnell, he really shut him down. And, the old adage, you hammer the hammer, and, the O'Donnells are mainstays within a good Glanty's men, I might add, that just happened to wander into units at the wrong time. But, it did a great job. You look at the other side, then you have Jason Campbell, who's having an amazing year as well. Marked Patrick McBready the week before. So we have options when it comes to man marking. And then you add into that the system on top of that. And obviously Ethan had an amazing semi-final, and I suppose the pressure's on him to step up again because, as Cass pointed out earlier on, maybe you don't have the level of sharpshooter that you had maybe in 18 or 19. But by the other side of the coin, we won a county semi-final with 10 shots on goals It's not really
One
good. And one wide. It's not really good enough either in the bigger picture. So we'd be expecting more to maybe more on the front foot and maybe create more, because you're shooting a 90%, conversion rate. It's incredible in any sport. And there'll be days that you'll take those shots and they won't go over the bar. And Naomh Conaill can't afford to sit and let Gaoth come on to them, get a couple of scores, and then hope that, Jack and Kieran and Anthony are going to kick these wonder scores again. Some days they just don't go over. Against St. Eunan's, they did. It was fantastic, and they're very capable of doing that. So I'd want to maybe see a bit more from them and coming out and trying to play a bit, as well as maintaining their solid defensive structure as they move forward.
Yeah, and so, Stephen, is it all about the mindset for Gaoth? If you look at it, Naomh Conall's way of playing is probably about breaking your ability to go into the game. I mean, you look at the many tight games they've won down through the years, a point, 2 points. It's not by coincidence. If most teams are a point up or 2 points up, there's a pressure on them, because if the other side gets a score, gets equaliser momentum, to Naomh Conaill, they may as well be 10 points up. They play that doesn't bother them. You see, in this mindset, and if you look at it, probably the last 2 seasons, their county final last year, I thought they were streets ahead of St. Eunan's. They won by a point. The last day again, I thought Naomh Conaill could have destroyed St. Eunan's. They're happy enough just to sit and win. So really, that mindset for the 70 plus minutes of Gaoth's must be real controlled football. To stay in the game. But really, in the back of their minds, they must be thinking, if Naomh Conaill are in the lead, going down the stretch, we're in trouble. That's a very tough proposition for this new team that, the Menelius has got back into this final to get their head around on such a big day.
Yeah, Brendan. I would say a well-drilled machine. I noticed that when they were 4 points up in Eunan's, I thought the game was over. And next minute, Eunan's got back to 1. They didn't panic. They didn't shoot from anywhere. They keep ball. They keep possession. They wait to get a scoring opportunity, or they wait to work those frees, and they get that second point, and then they just sit again. Very, very hard to play against. It seems as though they have a system that they must train together with us, John. They must plan this. They don't panic at any given time. I've never seen them ever panic, ever. So I don't know how we'll go about it. My opinion would be, I was screaming. I think it was the second game of the trilogy, or maybe the third. We were 2 points up, and I was saying, and we kept going at them. And I was saying, hold it. Go back to your back line, hold it, keep the ball, get them out of their comfort zone. No. Teams seem to, Eunan's were 2 points up. Against a bit of a breeze, you spoke about this.
Are you surprised at that, though, Gaoth, that no one has ever said, why don't you just keep the ball for a while?
I would keep it
and see what happens.
Try and force
or I was saying the last day, take Patton off. There was no point in Patton being on the pitch, particularly the last 20. Put on a player. Like, are you surprised, John, that no one has ever tried to at least had a there's no point in doing something else, because Naomh Conaill are going to beat you otherwise.
Well, I can't remember the exact year that Naomh Conaill played Kilcara, Peter, a bit better, and I don't know what the score was. It was like 2-1. It felt like 2-1. It felt like my life flashed before my eyes. It was 17. Absolutely. So Kilcara did try that. And to be fair, both teams were nearly asked to leave the county after it, and rightly so.
Rightly so.
But it's very, very hard, because Naomh Conaill can do this and get away with it because they're successful, and Martin Regan is an exceptional manager with an exceptional track record. If you're in St. Eunan's or you're in Gaoth, and now Francie's not, afraid of pulling everybody in the bus behind the ball, so it'll not bother Francie too much. Yeah. But most teams find it difficult to have enough confidence within themselves from a management perspective, and even from a club or player perspective, just to go, okay, we'll just keep the ball. No matter how the crowd's reacting, we'll just keep the ball and we'll throw it around. It's a very, very hard thing to do. Naomh Conaill can get away with it because they've wins in the bank. And as a club and as a town, we've bought into it, and that they're part of the community, and they're nearly an identity of the community to a certain extent. So interestingly, Naomh Conaill supporters will get as much joy out of stripping the ball and turning the ball over and breaking out of defence than they will to watch Kieran Thompson kick a point. And that's ultimately what it comes down to.
That's what it comes down to. John Gildea, Stephen Cassidy, thank you so much for your help. We have a break coming up, and after that we're going to hear from the two chairmen involved in the game. John, thanks so much. I know you're not feeling the best after Paris. I'm not feeling the best myself. Kieran Brogan has a wee potion for us waiting, and Sister Sarah's down there if you want to come down after.
I don't know if that'll help us or not, but sure, we'll try.
Thanks very much.
Tá sé éasca bheith gafa agus tú déile le riráistí morgáiste. An imní, na híhenda gan cholle, an tionchar tain agus a le chailech, ach tá bellach amach.
Fáiltearód, tarsteach.
Ag a bhaile, bín ar noras ar oscailte gcónaí, tá muid in seach an cabhrú agus tá muid réich an éisteach. Fáid takeíocht rúnda, séir an aisce agus cóirle fracticúil chun cabhrú leat dul an lec leis a bhaib tí chuirtehuirt ar mabs.ie/bhaile. Tionscanmh de chuid rialtas na hÉireann.
Enter the Virgin Media Playhouse and unleash our best offers, like 500 meg super-fast reliable broadband for just €39 a month for 12 months with no activation fee. Offer extended, must end 18th of October. Get it while you can at virginmedia.ie. Virgin Media, it's playtime.
T's and C's apply. VirginMedia.ie. Subject to location and availability. New customers only. 12-month contract. €70 a month thereafter. Ends October 18th, 2023.
This is Peter Power from UNICEF with an emergency appeal for children affected by the crisis in Gaza. Right now, hundreds of thousands of children are in extreme danger. Innocent children have been killed, injured and left homeless. Terrified children desperately need medical supplies, shelter and clean water. UNICEF is on the ground in Gaza, but we urgently need your help. Please donate now at unicef.ie to support our work. Thank you.
The DL debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Welcome back to Highland Motors here for the special championship preview. I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Donal Gallagher, chairman of Gaoth, and Peter McKelvey. Peter, I can't read my own writing there as I was scribbling there coming in. Such a famous name around Naomh Conaill, the McKelvey name. Peter, listen, I know you've had a massive time with the club over the years between playing and involvement, of course, refereeing. I suppose between the infrastructure at the club and everything that's happening, it's a phenomenal time for Naomh Conaill.
Yeah, we've had 17 or 18 good years now right up, but it was a hard struggle to get to that position. But I think it all boils down to our underage structure that we have, and we still have it. Just a lot of hard work, and that's what brings us where we are.
Yeah, it's interesting. We're seeing that happening in Four Masters now. They basically went back to basics, and people talk a lot about underage, Peter, and bringing sides through and how many players come through, but it has to be, I suppose, coherent the whole way up. And that's something at the club. There seems to be a real total club focus. Not just the club, but the town. You know, I was looking at, do you know why sometimes you see the Christmas lights still up in businesses around the county? You could nearly leave the blue and white bunting up around Naomh Conaill and Fintown because you're there every year.
Yeah, well, it's up fairly often, all right, yeah. But that can all change, as John said earlier, that can change too. So we're making the best of what we have at the moment. And even this year, the buzz is just as important as it was 10 years ago, you know.
Yes, indeed, yes, indeed. And Donal, listen, I've never been a place like Gaoth for names and the funniest names in the world. Donal Gallagher, but really Daniel Rua is how everybody would know you, Daniel. Of course, club stalwart. Stephen mentioned an old final back there. I don't want to go into that as well, but now you've ended up club chairman. Did you think you were going to get this position from your playing days?
Not really, no. At the time we were playing, it was just playing and enjoyment out of everything. But a lot of players then go on and do take up roles in the club, which is also a good thing, having the involvement of and having the interest in the club. Yeah. That keeps things going, you know.
Yeah. So. Of course, every time I'm in John Oakes and down in Mickey's, I have to look at these pictures. Every time I go out for a pad cash, and I'm like, oh, here we go again. Hoping nobody mentions those old finals, but great times. And I suppose the more I said to Stephen this season, there was a lot of talk about immigration and people going away, and 5-6 players left, and then Cian left and Dara Boyle left. And of course, did you pull Dara back early? Was that what happened? How did his woman take to that?
I don't know. She's still away. You need to ask her that question, I think. But it was nice to see him back, without a doubt. And I think he's really helped the team along the way in the last couple of games. He's played very, very well for us. Yeah. Cian has been a huge loss, no doubt about it. But there's still young players there. We competed under 21 last year. We won it. There's a few of them boys come through this year. So it's all about trying to keep the conveyor belt going on all the time. Yeah, and that conveyor belt, lads, because I know your two clubs very well, obviously, and you get a real sense with Naomh Conaill and Gaoth that the club is really at the heart
of the community. You know, I travel all around Ulster with my job and that, and when you go into a place and you know the GA team nearly represents the place, you know, you go into different towns in Donegal and they're not chatting GA all the time, they're not talking football, but you get that when you go into Glenties or Fintown or wherever. Football's number one, Peter, and that all transpires through because you're on about underage and then into seniors. Everyone's thinking football, football, football. If you have a young fella or a young girl and she can play or get involved, she's there or he's there.
We don't have much else to talk about in dance, it's only football. Isn't it? The football and the weather are the two things we just mostly discuss.
You have Jim McGillis to talk about now again.
Well, we have now again, but that we didn't have him for a while either. But anyway. It does mean a lot to the parish, big amount to the parish now, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And that underdogs tag, that the lads was mentioning there, is that something that you, I remember chatting to Shashiv McKelvey after that final that Unions won a couple of seasons ago, and talking about the systems again, it goes a wee bit against what I was saying. The routine and the normal Naomh Con performance wasn't seen that day. Now, we've seen it now the last couple of seasons. Is that the only fear from you as a chairman going in, that you could have some kind of drop in performance? Because if you look at it, if Naomh Con stick to how they've been playing all year, don't forget they've put away Kilcar as well. You know, brilliant second half against them, really routed them and really controlled St. Eunan's. Is it a feeling where, lads, do your jobs and we have another title in the bag?
Well, there's no title in the bag until it's won, anyway, that's for sure, and Gildea will make sure about that. But yeah, there's a confidence about them at the moment that they do feel they can win games. And as John alluded to there, they don't panic either, they stick to their guns, and it's working for them. Now, anything can happen. A mistake one way or another can change a game, we know that. And especially the way Glenties play, because they never won games by big amounts. So one goal near the end can turn the tide. But they are confident, and they play with a confidence, and they play for one another. There's nobody leading the bunch, they just play for one another. And we are always hoping if a man has an off day that somebody else will have a twice as good, you know, so that's what you're banking on.
And Daniel, that continuity that Martin Regan has brought in, like that is another huge big, I suppose, thing that Gildea have to get over, is how they play the game and how they stick to the system. Now, John Harn came out at half time and Ruan shouted at a few of the St. Eunan's players. You're not going to do that at half time, are you?
No, I'll leave it up to the management. That's what they're for. So,
maybe he needed to come out in the semi-final as well.
Well, that happens. That's passion. That's what it is.
Listen, we all know John well. In many ways, you know, people can look at that two ways. But you know, I think when you know your team's not playing well, you know, you want to get involved. But listen,
we'll hold back. We'll watch it from the stands, I think, and we won't get too involved in things like that. But listen, it's on the day. That's how football is.
Yeah.
Whoever performs, whoever turns up, small, maybe a sending off, a ref decision, things can go against you, things can go for you. And hopefully it's a good open game.
After that, you know, obviously that epic Ulster one and the final the next year, is this in many ways a bit of a stepping stone to pull you back up? You know, whatever happens at the weekend, it's been a massive, I suppose, plus in terms of these lads having this experience, some of younger players in, that they're back at the pinnacle of Donegal club football.
Yeah, it's nice to be at the top table. That's where you want to be all the time. We've had quite a number of good groups coming through, maybe not continuously all the time, but there has been excellent groups coming through with that 18 side. You had quite a few older lads with Neil and Eamon and Oren and a few of them. Then you had the second group then with Kieran Gillespie at the time and Niall Frail and, you know, that Norman McFadden Ferry and that group, and they blended well together at that time. We had a good structure in place that time too. We had Michael and coaching us, and he was a big help to the club at the time. Now there's no doubt about that.
Is Kieran an option? I know he played against Ardra. You know, obviously terrible luck with injuries, and that's another thing. I suppose going from that brilliant team, the amount of kind of obstacles between players immigrating and the likes of him and Big Gavin picking up an injury as well. It's been a tough time for McDaid's to I suppose he should have a better squad to play with at the minute, but there's been a lot of things working against him, which makes this final even more impressive that they've got there.
It is, yeah, but you had the backup of the 21s last year coming through too. There's about 5 or 6 excellent players on that side, and a lot of them are still under 21 this year again. So that's a plus for the club as well. But we'll see what happens on the day.
We'll see what happens on the day. You agree with that?
We certainly will, yes, we certainly will.
Peter McKelvey and indeed Donal Rua, all the best, lads. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Good job, those breaks.
It's the Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever sale. Up to 50% off everything in store. All tiles, all wood flooring, all outdoor slabs, cladding and bathware. Everything slashed in price. This sale is not to be missed. Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring biggest ever half-price sale extended until Sunday.
It's time to transform your smile with the help of Blue Poppy Dental, Letterkenny and Donegal Town. Their expert team offer orthodontics, teeth whitening, implants and composite bonding all in-house. Start your journey by calling 07497400404 or easily book your appointment online at a time that suits you through their user-friendly patient portal, available anytime, anywhere at bluepoppydental.com. Blue Poppy Dental and Orthodontics, Letterkenny and Donegal Town. Medical card patients welcome.
With a high digital online skills course, you'll feel a real difference.
I can listen to all the music I like. The bus app that's coming out, and it's brilliant.
Anything you want to know, it's at your fingertips.
They're small things, but they mean something.
Learn essential online skills with simple, accessible lessons at highdigital.ie or free phone 1800 20 30 30. Brought to you by Vodafone Ireland Foundation and Alone. Vodafone. Together we can.
Did you hear about Nissan's 2-for-1 offer?
Wait, do you mean 2-for-1, the license plate, or 2 cars for the price of 1?
Both. If you buy a selected 2-for-1 Nissan now, in 2025 they'll replace it with a 251 Nissan for free.
Wow, that really is a 2-for-1 offer.
Buy a selected 2-for-1 Nissan and get a 251 Nissan for free. For details about this and all our 2-for-1 offers, contact your local Nissan dealer or visit nissan.ie. Terms and conditions apply. Nissan, innovation that excites.
The DL debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend.
Yes, welcome back to the DL debate for the final panel of the season. It's the two mathematical and tactical masterminds that are Brendan Kilcoyne and Gary, the Pep Guardiola of the Glen. McDaid, how are you, lads?
All good, Davy.
Thanks,
Brent. There's no
just
more talk about the 2006
No.
final.
And before, I want to get your opinion on your previews on the final as well. Just be careful because Daniel Ruhr brought a few. I see Eamon O'Boyle there and Donald Bonner and John Bosco. We better be careful. We're a wee bit outnumbered here with the Gaoth crew. But listen, we'll keep it all right. Before we get to that, lads, fascinated to know what you made of two brilliant junior and intermediate finals from the weekend. First of all, Narasa, Gary. As soon as Declan Bonner took this job, we were thinking there's one thing on his mind, that's won the title. They did that, but it wasn't easy. But in many ways, Moville unlucky moments in the game where they possibly could have won that match.
Yeah, Brendan, really, really good game. I enjoyed it. I loved both teams. Nearly every kick out was long and everyone was contested, and it was actually a very fast game for junior football. The quality of the ball was good. Probably Narasa had more players comfortable in the ball than Moville had. Moville battled right to the end. Moville led for most of the second half, and Narasa, even though they were behind, I was watching it, was like, it nearly reminded you of Glenties. They never really panicked, they kind of were still in the game, not fully controlling it, but knew that they had something there going down the home straight, and they showed that. And if you look at the results during the year, they did that a lot during the year, going down the home straight, and it's like the old dogs for the hard road, because they certainly were. And even though they'd some of those older players, you have to commend them. They were in terrific shape. They were lean. There was no one carrying any weight. And from what I heard from chatting to a few of the supporters at the game at half time, and at the commitment that some of them boys, there's a few of them flying home from England every weekend for
Is that
games.
something that Declan Bonner brings to it? Is that something that has influence? Because he's going to be thinking that like a county setup.
Yeah, well, suppose it was a survival setup for Narasa, because if they didn't get those lads home, they weren't going to have enough players to field now. And seeing that, I think they had 34 players named in the programme at the weekend, so it was fantastic to see that. But, they struggled for a long time, for years there, to make sure they had 15, and fair play to them. They kept the show on the road, you know, and I was laughing, you know, there was a few jealous supporters there at the weekend. They were calling them the United Nations, so they had boys in from everywhere, they reckon. But listen, you got to hand it to them. You got to do what you got to do to win a championship.
Yeah, well, I think Sweeney and Hanlon, they played. Sweeney's maybe on the Narasa side. Hanlon had played underage. There's a story there, you know, I suppose, behind it. Brendan, if you look at the game coming down to it, I think it was Big Diver went through 1-on-1 with the keeper. He blazed the ball over the bar. I think Moville were a point up at that stage. That would have given them, you know, an extra 3. He put the ball over the bar, obviously. But if that goal went in, because I could text Johnny Quigg the last day. I mean, the story of himself and Pat McLaughlin taking the job was 2 soccer men, you know, and Quiggy never coached a team in his life. Isn't it amazing? When you think of Declan Bonner and all he's been through and the coaching, that you have Quiggy in there who himself says, I know nothing about that Gaelic, you know. but he goes, I know how to get a team fit and move the ball. It's remarkable that they were there, and I felt that Moville were a front foot type attacking team. They ended up sitting, and I don't think it suited them, Brendan, on that 1 point. That said, they were going into injury time nearly. They were that point up. But just as Gary was saying, the wee bit of know-how, you know, particularly with Osh and Caulfield, McHugh at 11, they just maybe had a couple of extra players that were going to open them up.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, you mentioned Oisin Caulfield. I thought it was particularly when the game was in the melting pot, the last 10 minutes kind of thing. It was Oisin that was really carrying the game too. Moville put up a great performance, a really enjoyable game to watch, so it was. But they just had that bit extra quality at that stage. So I thought young Killian Bonner had a really good game too for Narasa inside, kicked a couple of lovely wee points kind of thing. But it was Oisin Caulfield to me that was driving force when it was needed. And in finals, you need bodies to stand up, you need heroes to stand up, and you know, Narasa had them and that bit of know-how, that bit of nous just in the last few
you would
minutes.
know Oisin, very mature head. Brendan,
Yeah.
as soon as he got the ball, it was as if he was controlled. You know, we keep talking about the Naomh Conaill players. He was probably playing like a Leo McClune or you know, a Thompson when he was on the ball for such a young lad.
Yeah, definitely. He showed a lot of maturity. He showed maturity way beyond his years because he's only 19, like, you know, so he really showed maturity beyond his years and really contributed. But it was a good team effort. It was an all-round team. They defended well, and then when the game was there to be won, as I say, Brendan, they had enough in the tank to go out and win.
And the block of Mellies there.
Fantastic, yeah, brilliant.
You know, those things swing games. We always have to. We're always looking to the points, but he basically saved a score, which could be the difference. Hats off to them. They're going into Ulster now to represent the Donegal Fermanagh champions. They're playing Gary. Gary, Downlands. What a story this is for Downlands. You know, junior championship a couple of seasons ago. You know, a lot of people would say, you know, possible give intermediate a rattle. No one was thinking they'd won it. Here they are, champions. You know, and a Malin team that some people had a bit of a fancy for Malin going into this game, but Downlands champions.
Yeah, listen, and probably deservedly so. Really good game again, and I enjoyed it. You know, it was tight. It was kind of nearly the Johnny McGrady show against the Christy McLaughlin show. Like, Christy was outstanding for Malin at wing forward, so he was, and really carried the fight for them. But Johnny, you know, he just gave an exhibition. You'd be proud of it yourself, of place ball kicking, so he did. I think he had 5 from frees and 1 from play. And, you know, from talking to the locals down there in Downings, you get out what you put in, and he's one man they say that you'll always see down at the pitch kicking frees, you know, when he lives up to that name, and he showed it for Donegal minors and under 20 as well. And of course last year, brilliant game against Kerry in the National League, got 2 points, and in that game, and had a good McKenna Cup game for them. Like, where they've come from. 2018 they were in Division 4, and as you said, then they won the junior two years ago. So in 5 years they went from Division 4 to Division 1, maintained their status in Division 1, won the junior 2 years ago, went to an Ulster final, got beat by the Cavan team Den, and now they play the Cavan winners again, so they do now in Ulster. But interestingly, you know, from talking to some of the boys afterwards, I think they said it was, you know, that yesterday, Brendan, was their 53rd week training.
Yeah.
That's intermediate football. So it is. So,
and that's SP training as well.
And that's the level
you're going to be running.
You know, you know, that's the level that you probably have to go to. You know, if you want to win. You know, and Downings are lucky. You know, from talking to a lot of the locals down there, and that, you know, they have a really invested group of players who want football. Downings in the past would have been maybe known as the holiday town, the seasonal town, and been very hard to get players out in the summer with work and parties not going on. This group seems different. They're about football, so they are. They love football. Like, they've even got the extremes. I heard that each player invested in his own GPS. You know, like, there's nobody else, I'm pretty sure, at intermediate football. There's a lot of senior clubs wouldn't have their own GPS. They went and each player individually invested in their own GPS to make sure they had that to get the most of themselves. The club are lucky they have a group of players blessed who are dedicated to football and dedicated to the
You don't play a lot
GA.
of soccer, is what you're saying?
Well, listen, I don't know the ins and outs of that there, but listen, you gotta admire them, and I'm always a firm believer you get out what you put in. They've invested heavily, and they got the rewards.
Huge year for Michael Byrne. You know, fantastic lad, Brendan. You know, and Malin, I suppose they were a seniors club for so long. There's been no doubting they'll have learned a lot from this season, Brendan. They'll be back next year straight away. You would put them in as one of the favourites to come back and get back into that final.
Oh, you will definitely. And you look at the crowd they brought to O'Donnell Park yesterday, like there was great colour and noise and everything from them, so they're definitely going in the right direction. But I suppose the key with a lot of that is keeping that team together and getting more of these young fellas through. You know, the two O'Neills that were playing for them yesterday, Conor and Sean O'Neill, played really well, like, but they're young fellas, and it's about building on where they were. Of course, Christy Fildara was the man, like, he put in a really top class performance. But if you look, I felt Lorcan Conor really played a big part in this Downings win yesterday, particularly later on in the game again.
Are they county players, Brendan, that you think could do something for Donegal?
Oh, listen, they're probably worth having a look at, Brendan. Like, it's a different. I don't think it's fair to kind of look at a guy in an intermediate final and say, listen, he should be playing for the county. You have to bring them in, look at them, and test them at that level. But the two of them, like Johnny, was faultless on the frees, and Lorcan again. I spoke about Oisín Caulfield when the game was in the melting pot. Lorcan, I think he got clothesline 3 times down the far sideline and laid on in the game, and he was determined to get on the ball to make something happen. And they're the difference, they're the margins that win it, kind of thing. But was it number 17 Alan Pasoma who came in and started too? Had a really good game for Downey, so he had. And
they'll miss this McGuinness training camp though. Anybody that's still involved. This Ultimate Hill Week that's coming up.
I wouldn't like to go on that holiday summer. And I'm also glad there was no GPS things around when you were playing either, Davey. I don't think your figures would be too good.
I used to just hang about the 21.
I know.
Kick it on free. Yeah, that's where it went. But lads, listen, brilliant. And Ballyhaise, who they're playing in the next game. I have 2 big customers up there. And so me and Kevin Cookie be good mates, you know. I'll be coming up filling them full of lies in the coming week. I can only imagine that's Terry Highland.
Interestingly, they beat Den in the final, in the Cavan final yesterday, who beat Downings in the junior Ulster final there a few years ago. Yeah.
Hey, they were a cracking good side as well.
They are a good side, yeah.
But lads, that's that read up. I'm fascinated to get your views, lads, on this final. And Gary, the tactician that you are, how do Gaoth break down this Naomh Conaill defence? What is the conundrum? What would be your plan going into this final for Gaoth?
You know, looking at Gaoth's semi-final, I thought Gavin McBride was instrumental in the first 10 minutes. So he was. They were using him a lot. There was an extra player for McCool's to mark. When he went off injured. Now, hopefully, for their sake, he'll be back for the final, because it means he's a big man to mark. It means you have the likes of him. You have Eamon McGee and Ethan Harkin, all 3 men who are well over 6 foot, all 3 men who are not easy push to the ball. To me, you know, they have a triple threat up there. Eamon's probably doing something that very few players in club football are doing. He's showing hard into the D. They managed to clear the D a lot for him. He gets in, gets that wee pop ball and lays it off. Like, he plays to his strengths, so he brings a lot of players into the game. I think they have to really try and get a massive intensive start, almost like the French game last night. So they're starting the first half. They have to come guns blazing at the start. They have to get ahead in this game, and the 3 boys, I think, inside are key to that there, and they have to pummel them with ball, and I think they nearly have to make peace that they're not going to win every ball that goes in. You know, I'm really looking forward to that battle, because when you think it, you have AJ, Jason and Alton will probably be the 3 boys picking them up inside, so it's going to be, I think it'll be a massive battle inside. Steve McFadden, who was a man who came in for him then, I think he has to start. You know, he was brilliant the last day. They need their best team on from the start. They can't wait and hold anyone. I think they need to go hell for leather start, and whatever's in Michael Carroll, I think he could be the ace in the pack. So he could, if there's only half an hour in him, I would get him in the first half hour, because he is a player that football probably comes natural to. People say football is a game that you work at. it comes natural to Micheál Carroll from every time I've seen him to play, you know, and from what I hear, he's working hard, you know, on his own down there the last fortnight. County finals don't come around very often, you know.
Unless you're from Naomh Conaill.
And you have to grab it when the opportunities arise. You know, the Glenties kick out, if you look at it, if you look at the county final last year and you look at the semi-final this year, Steve McGrath, long, down the middle, Charlie comes out. They have Leo there. They have Kieran Thompson there. They have then it's always head into that area, always. And then coming off for the breaking ball, then you have Jack McKelvey, Owen Doherty, and Ethan Dahl. They're probably the 3 quickest players they have, and this is done on purpose. They come at speed, and they really hurt Union's on that in the last day. And probably, you know, knowing Francie and Ronan as well, you know, they're going to be looking hard at that there, because that is their go-to kick out all the time. And it's up to Gaoth to build a wall somewhere around that there man in the middle and to stop him. To me, they have to stop Jack McKelvey. So they have to man mark him. They have to man mark Kieran Thompson. You know, Jack McKelvey, Union's did a brilliant job in the game in Glenties. Eamon Doherty went on and marked him out of the game. In the second game, they changed that. They didn't start Eamon Doherty. And Jack McKelvey was instrumental, 2 points in the game. He is huge, along with Kieran Thompson. He has the ability to run the game and turn the game for Naomh Conaill. So they have to man mark the two of those. Gaoth, to me, have to outrun them. We're talking about GPS there. I think, you know, they probably have a younger age bracket in them. You know, I talked there about the 3 young lads, the boys with a real athletic ability for Naomh Conaill. They are the athletic ability. Probably if you look at Gaoth, they probably have more athletic ability in the team, but they have to show that at the weekend. They have to outrun them. Their GPS has to be red hot.
Yes.
So it has to be blowing out of the water. Like, it's the only way they're going to come in here and get over the line. If they don't, you know, do that there. If the likes of Niall Friel, I've been really impressed with young Michael rotated wing back this year. That's 2 wing backs who are quality, and they have the ability. They have 2 boys who can blow their GPS red hot. They have to get up that line time after time, and both of them are good ball players. So they have, you know, they're the lads that they have to look to. And to me, you know, that's what they have to do about. You know, I talked about it was on with you the last time about this Naomh Conaill team. In my mind, I said, you know, possibly the greatest have come out of Donegal, and a lot of people disagreed with it at the time, but I would still stand
people
by
disagree with you, Gary. I don't get that at all. Brendan, listen, great points from Gary there. Ethan O'Donnell, of course, didn't look like he was going full tilt. He had a bit of an injury. He'll have a couple of weeks rest back in this as well. Gary just mentioned there the conundrum for Gaoth is Gary's on, but they have to go in front. What if they don't? And even if they do, it's not going to bother Naomh Conaill either if they do go in front, because they'll just keep playing the same system. So the whole mindset on this full match is about Gaoth being confident enough to stay in the game against this machine like Naomh Conaill team.
Absolutely, Brendan. And like you look at Naomh Conaill, they went 4 or 5 down against Kilcar. They went down again against Unions. But they were down 6 points, I think, at the game over in Davy Brennan Park. So that won't overly phase them either. They can deal with these situations within a game. I felt the one time that Naomh Conaill was suspect this year was that first half against St. Unions, when Unions ran at them hard from deep. When they turned them over inside their own 45-65 and ran at them hard, they caused endless problems for Naomh Conaill coming from them areas. And Gaoth have the players to do that. You mentioned Michael Roarty, Niall Friel, very underrated player, like never has a bad game for Gaoth, always looking to get up the field to create. And then you have, of course, Oren, the master. If Oren McNeilis comes out and puts in a big performance, and you get a big performance from the Gaoth lads, you know, they're a different animal come a final. We know that from experience, Brendan, and they're well capable of really putting it up to this Naomh Conaill team. And I'd say that they're quietly confident down. They're preparing for the game this year. They didn't expect to be, I'd say, where they are. As you know, they may have surpassed their expectations in relation to that. But it promised to be a great final, so it does. And you know, Naomh Conaill are going to be hot favourites
another
for
trilogy,
a reason.
maybe, no?
I don't know about that. Naomh Conaill are going to be hot favourites for a reason, but Gaoth in a final.
Gaoth, who are you tipping?
Listen, for all reasons known, you have to go with Naomh Conaill. You have to favour them because of what we've seen, because of what we've known. They've taken out Kilcar in a quarter-final, St. Unions in a final. This so-called top big four, can they take out 3 of the big 4? That's the question, Brendan.
Are you along with that, Gary?
Yeah, listen, I'll go with that there. Same thing. Like, it's a lot. Finals gone live for their own. It's a lot for Guidor, so it is. It's a lot of things have to come right, and maybe it's too much has to come right. As I said, probably the greatest teams ever come out of Donegal, so I'm not going to go against them now.
Well, there you have it, lads. That's the final two experts of this evening, and I want to thank them for wrapping things up. Of course, Daniel Rua and Peter McKelvin, of course, Stephen Cassidy and John Gildea on previous. I want to thank everybody for contributing. Lawrence, thanks very much here at Highland Motors for looking after us. Head of Sport, Oisín Kelly, who's my boss here this evening. Joe Dex, as ever, producing the show. We're going to speak to you all next week. We'll see who's beholding the Dr Maguire, and who knows, we might get another trilogy. We'll be all back here again. We'll see what happens. That's all for DL Debate this evening. Stay tuned for the excellent Monday night sessions. I'll speak to you all next week.
The DL Debate with Sister Sara's Letterkenny, serving food you'll love till 9 p.m. daily in Sara's kitchen. And there's free admission entertainment every weekend. Harkins have been providing customers with quality fireplaces, stoves and electric fires for over 30 years. And now you can experience the elegance of luxurious worktop from Harkins. Their experienced craftsmen can fabricate marble, quartz or granite worktops to your specification.